How we doing, vinyl community? It's your old pal Dom, seeking a thread. Lining up a couple of Acid Archives videos is always one to work on. This is a long project, people. Don't forget it. Every record must be covered. Today, it's Nevermind. The Other Nevermind from 1973. This is Damin A. I can't ever say this name. Damin E. We'll just call it Damin E. With Brother Clark and A.L.K. Nevermind, for one of the truly most twisted and baked private press psychedelic records that I've heard, bar none. This one is out there, but so good. It almost sounds as if this was pieced together. But this was all like conceived and conceptualized just like any band would, but they weren't really a band. In my head, I always sort of thought they were a band, but no. So yeah, this is the reissue. Now, this is an original that came out on the Demelot label. As I said, 1973. There's probably only, I think, 200 pressed. It's sold anywhere from $440 for the median up into $3,658 is the high price paid. Not many of these have sold. I've never seen one in person. I've never really even come across one online. Discogs has sales history for 4 copies. One sold last July for $50, graded poor vinyl good plus sleeve. I would have taken a chance on that maybe, but yeah, near mint copy was that high price. Then you had VG plus for $600. That sold in 2017. Somebody got a pretty good deal in 2016, $280 for a nice VG. Anyway, what is this? Well, as you hear, this is a fried ass record, and it's out of Minnesota. And the real mastermind behind this record is Damin E. He was conceiving songs on acoustic guitar and really conceptual, sort of really had the almost Brian Wilson-like quality and of composing and sort of like just coming up with a grand statement. And Brother Clark and A.L.K., who are the ones who did an interview with the Psychedelic Baby magazine, which I will link to below. That's a great webzine. Damin E is basically could be dead, has been unheard from since this record came out. But Brother Clark and A.L.K., they did this interview and they talk all about how they conceived this music. I guess they all sort of rehearsed what Damin E was coming up with as for ideas, and they went out, I think, to the East Coast because they were a Minnesota group, and they laid it all down in like 2 days. It's mainly Damin E's songs, and then the other two guys, Brother Clark and A.L.K., did contribute some music to it, or some actual songwriting to it. But I'll read you the description on the back. And this is a nice reissue, by the way. It does have an insert, a lyric insert. Kind of hard to read any of it, but it's a reproduction of what the original insert was. And this reissue is on the Nero's Neptune label from 2009. Damin E is the 12-string lead and electric guitar, lint tone guitars, lead vocals, synthesizer, and piano. Brother Clark, bass, harmonies, electric guitar and piano, and Chinese chimes. Some really cool percussion too from A.L.K, who does lead vocals on a couple of tracks, piano, electric guitar, and various percussions. Damin E is listed as producer, but from 1973, like I said, I'll link to that interview done below. It really gets in depth as to where they were coming from. A lot of it's the same story that you get from the 60s, you know, guys getting into sort of like the Beatles and like Hermits and all that kind of stuff, and just sort of learning music. But this one is incredibly sophisticated in its production and what they were trying to do. Like, this should have been picked up. Apparently they did get a rejection letter from Columbia Records, as it did not work out, clearly. But they did submit it there. But this is right up there if you love like relatively clean rivers, although this one is definitely more of an abstract feeling to it. A little bit like the Ithaca and Agincourt records, but with a definite private press lean. Very cult record. And this cover art, I guess, is also Damin E's cover artwork. So this is classic Acid Archive stuff. Don't expect to ever find an original of this. Won't be looking. Not trying. Be foolhardy. But I am keeping this reissue. I'll read to you what it says in the back. If we really wanted to pin it down, we'd have to say that Nevermind began 7 years ago. It was then that these three young men began playing together. Still, when Nevermind became an actuality, it represented a curious and almost metaphysical event. One can actually say that even after 7 years of association, the album represents the spontaneous fusion of three very distinct personalities. Damin E rhymes with Flamin' Tree. Damin E? Yeah. A.L.K. and Brother Clark are all of quietly reflective minds, but as with everyone, such has his own individual idiosyncrasies. In Nevermind, these idiosyncratic differences dissolve, and reaching out with their music, the three become one. As they say in their own song Tourniquet, which is what we've been listening to, that plus Sing a Different Song, no one after Christmas can recall the truth, but for them there is nothing new to recall. Beyond the foibles of language, it all came down on them in August of 73 with Nevermind. The material, sensible environment is obvious. It is at any moment detectable. Via the musical outreach of Nevermind, one comes into the awareness of something beautiful beyond crass sensibilities. The world of contemporary music is a multifaceted one, but this album must surely stand out as one of the most unique yet listenable contributions in the very past few years. So take off your eyes, sit back, and enjoy Nevermind. Sorry, it's hard to read some of it because it's splotches of red, but yeah, truly fried music. Let's read from the Acid Archives and see what they think of this one as we hear more. Let's see, where are we? Mazzola, that looks like John Fogerty. Electromagnets, Austin, the Electras. I think it's under Damin, D-A-M-I-N. Dark Shadows, Damin, of course. Yeah, here it is. It is under Damin. There are 2 reviews for this. Damin E, A.L.K, and Brother Clark, Nevermind, 1973 demo lot. Orange, black, white cover, lyrics insert. It's rated as a 4, Rarity. There is a bootleg with a thin cover and a different back, and then a CD on the orange double label, I think. Alright, this is from Patrick Lundborg. One of those elaborate Midwestern head trips that will send you into an oral space you didn't even know existed, like CA Quintet on side 1 or Yerzda Erfa. The longer suites are particularly impressive, while the shorter tunes less so. Don't agree. A unique mix of multi-layered acoustic guitars, treated vocals, and extensive use of cymbals creates a piercing yet enjoyable high-frequency soundscape that demands your attention, while some Moog and fuzz bass round out the bottom. That's what I love about it too, is just how immersive, and yeah, the cymbals that are up front. It's very psychedelic, of course. Someone spent a lot of money on this one, and I would deem it largely successful, with parts that are truly spellbinding, even though the message remains obscure. Pretentious and rather Euro-proggish in its sensibility, yet playful and exotic enough to appeal to more adventurous psych fans. The band's ridiculously unwieldy moniker and the lack of a high-profile reissue keeps this one buried. A little bit mixed from Lundborg, but he's definitely appreciating the out-there quality to it. And it is like a real production, dense, thick recording. All right, this one is also, this one now from Aaron Malinsky. One-of-a-kind album from a truly warped, unique sensibility. It's a tough-to-describe mix of acoustic guitars, pop melodies, folk prog, and just plain weirdness. Often brilliant, the truly classic Thunder Mice. That's one of the other guys, I think, who wrote that. That's the first track on side 2. But just as often impenetrable. Those who get it seem to instantly place this in their personal all-time top 10s. I don't know if it's top 10 for me, but it is up there. I can't say I'm one of those privileged ones, but in every listen I do discover something new and enjoy bits and pieces of it. The album is constructed to feel like one continuous whole rather than a collection of songs, which actually makes it harder to enjoy other than Thunder Mice. The individual songs don't really distinguish themselves. It reminds me of the better Gong albums, where you wade through a couple of minutes of forgettable jamming and hit a great 20 seconds or so thinking, wow, if they just developed that into a complete song. The problem, though, is that there isn't enough focus or fully formed ideas to even do so if they wanted to. And my instinct is that E, whoever he is, has the same problem. The good moments make you want to forgive the dull spots, thinking they're over your head, but I suspect they're just E rambling rather than E in the midst of inspiration. Of course, the chosen few who get it would certainly say I'm wrong about this. So yeah, it's certainly saying that the cult fans of this cult record put this one rather high. So Damin, E, Brother Clark, and A.L.K, Nevermind, Acid Archives Diaries. If you've got an original to sell for a cool $400, I'm in. I love this. Yeah, it's one to get deep into and sort of like vibe out to. Anyway, I am Dom, seeking a thread.